And we are live, guys. Hi and welcome to the Men of High Value channel, your channel for understanding the woman and the world of relationships. My name is Joseph Darling, and today we will finish off the story of going from in-love bliss to honeymoon hell. Remember that we are live here every single day at 7 a.m. Oslo, Norway time. This relationship stuff is critical for joy and happiness, so it needs to be shared with as many people as possible. So as always, remember to share on all forms of social media, give me all the likes, subscribe, and press the little bell button. We have a lot to cover, so let's just get right into it. Since we went live for the very first time last Monday, you have learned about Christina, Chiquita, and Chanel. With all these girls, I was leading the charge quite intensely towards love and committed relationship. And every time I came to know that each girl was the one, I would focus my attention on her and nothing else, and with no exception, each and every time I would become what people call friend-zoned, and they would leave me and want to remain my friend. But with Alexis, my now wife, things were different. We had only been together for a few weeks when we one time were having one of our many long talks about life. And she came to mention that when she committed to something, she was not one to give up and leave. She wanted to make things work no matter what. My kind of girl. So to make things clear to me, she said firmly, I don't ever break up with people. To which I responded, I don't ever break up either, so... At that moment, we both figured out right there and then that no one in this relationship would be friend-zoning anyone. For me, that was such a massive relief. I could finally breathe and be myself. I was tired of being hurt. I was tired of being rejected. I was tired of being just a friend. And at this time, things were different. I had finally found someone who loved me, wanted to get married quickly, have lots of babies, and be happily ever after with. But women are like fish. There are plenty of them in the sea, and the tighter you hold one of them, the faster they slip out of your hand. So back to the honeymoon. I was finding the cheapest flights and cheapest 5-star hotel in Europe. The place became Budapest, the city of spas. How romantic is that? When we arrived in Budapest, it was raining and it was cold. But that didn't matter at all to me, because except for the spa visits, I had no intention whatsoever spending much time outside the honeymoon suite. And for good reason. Having remained a virgin for 23 years and being proud of it, I was excited, fired up, and ready to get down to business. Now, though important for men to hear about my failures in order to learn the art of true lovemaking, that is for another time and another setting. What is important to take note of, however, is that women are hardwired to respond a certain way to neediness and desperation. And the moment we had turned the corner of he's now my husband and she is now my wife, I was heading back to the same pattern I kept going back to. All focus and attention on one woman in my life and me needing her more than she needed me. I was heading down the friend zone highway, which is not a happy place to be if you want a woman to be all over you. I was excited, and she didn't want to turn me down. She loved me. But my excitement levels were not decreasing, and it was a huge turnoff for her. When it comes to emotions, women have many times more intense emotions than men. This is why they're more apt to thinking about safety, more swift to solving problems, and more effective than men in general. When their emotions tell them to do something, they obey, and her emotions were telling her that this was not good. Can we blame her? Not at all. How can we? It was not her fault that her emotions were screaming, not again. Can't he just let up for a moment? Is there not more to the honeymoon than being stuck in this room? The more excited I was about her, the more depressed she became. And it didn't help that it was cold and rainy outside. At this point, the only thing she wanted was to be alone, enjoy a warm beach somewhere, and have no one disturbing her. I was expecting the honeymoon to be a trip I would never forget. Planning this live session, we had to ask each other tons of questions about it since we almost had no recollection of it. I wonder why. At the same time, however, it should be noted that I was a patient guy, I was considerate of her needs, and I wanted her to be happy above all. We didn't even argue about it. I was just a horny 23-year-old with no experience other than being able to restrain myself from sexual participation, which I eventually did. From in love bliss to honeymoon hell. At first there was only silence from her because I had sent her to her head. She was only thinking the entire time, probably wondering if this was how marriage was gonna be. Had her life ended. I had sent her to the pits of depression, and my job now became one of being the entertainer to make her happy again. Even though I was pretty good at it, what had I accomplished? I had managed to friend zone my wife in a matter of hours and days. Although I had been expecting a lot more of wow experiences from our honeymoon, we ended up being best friends on that trip. Strolling around town, checking out the spas, looking at people, eating good food. But that was it. Though I didn't know it at the time, the questions I was asking in my head, why can't we just both be madly in love with each other at the same time, all the time? Why does there have to be one of us continually less interested in the other in order to make this work? This was only the beginning of my quest to understand the woman and how to bring out her potential for bliss, joy, adventure, and happiness. And this is why we've created the Men of High Value channel. There's no reason for you to go through the exact same thing that I did. Most men would never admit that he was needy and desperate on his honeymoon. But I have no problems admitting it because it was just an event. And I knew that if I somehow managed to retain her, we would be destined for greater things. And I'm 100% positive that if you follow the principles I'm about to share with you for the next 80 to 100 years, you will be sharing those same things with your great-grandchildren too. My name is Joseph Darling, and this is the Men of High Value channel. Remember to smash the likes, subscribe, and I'll see you again tomorrow.